Welcome back to part 3 of how I fill out the character record sheet. So instead of just talking for a few minutes, we're just going to dive right in and get right to it. A language that I forgot to mention in the last video is Druidic. Specific to Druids, you have a special language that only you guys can use to communicate back and forth with each other. Kind of like thieves can't. So we're going to go ahead and put that up there with our languages right after Elvish. Alright, before we get started on the equipment, I have to bring this little note up on the screen here. For equipment, it pretty much tells you that you need to first choose a background. Go from the equipment that you get from that, and then you can add your other equipment, armor and stuff like that to it. So we're going to jump right up into our equipment for the Hermit. I chose Hermit because it seems to be a very useful background. Now we're going to go down, and because we have a skill proficiency in medicine and religion, we get to go down and modify those in our skill settings. So let's see, first one is medicine. Put our little dot in the radio button there, change our 3 to a 5, proficiency is +2, and go in there and change religion, which we also get, change that to a 3. And we'll scroll down a little bit further here, and if you notice it says tools, Herbalism Kit. Wow, we've already got that. So as far as a language goes, we get to choose one of those as well. Now, I personally would choose Goblin, because the Goblin is one of those creatures that don't care. They defile nature. I'm going to put that down as another language that I know. Now we get to go to equipment. So it says here, equipment. You get a scroll case stuffed full of notes from your studies or prayers. A winter blanket, a set of common clothes, and of course your Herbalism Kit, and you get 5 gold pieces to start with. So there's our base equipment that we get to add to our other equipment that we get for our class. So we're going to take and drop that in there. Alright, now that we got that set in there for our equipment, then we can get into what you get as a druid. Now we get to add our equipment. So besides our starting equipment for our background, we get to choose from a wooden shield or any simple weapon. Now personally myself, because I'm a druid and I'm like walking around nature and stuff like that, I would take a quarterstaff, so I could use that also as a walking stick. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to abbreviate that, of course. Q staff. Also get to choose between a scimitar or a simple melee weapon. So I'm going to bring up the weapons chart that's in the book. Take a check at that. Let's see, simple melee weapons. That'd be a club, a dagger, great club, hand axe, javelin, light hammer, mace, quarterstaff, sickle, spear. I think I will go with dagger, because you never know what you're going to need a dagger for, and it's a finesse weapon, so you get your dexterity bonus when you use it. Now also we get a leather armor. Now I'm going to take and bring up the armor chart on that just so you guys can see what leather armor is. Now leather armor is just plain leather armor. Well, a lot of the time it could even be form-fitting leather armor. It just depends on who made it for you or if you made it yourself. Armor, leather. Now we're going to adjust our armor class. So armor class is your armor plus your dexterity modifier. So with a 11 armor class for just plain leather, and our 3 for our dexterity modifier. That gives us a 14. Next, we're going to take a look at an initiative. Initiative is one of those things that your dungeon master says, hey, roll initiative. You're going to enter combat. You roll your d20, you take and add your initiative number to that, which will help determine your position in the combat sequence. So this also relies on our dexterity modifier, which is 3. Next thing we're going to do is determine our hit points. The first thing you need to do to determine hit points is find out where your hit die is. In our case, our hit die is 1d8 because we're a first level druid. So 1d8. Now when we get to second level, we'll take and put in total up here 2d8, and third level 3d8. Now if you want to make it even simpler, just put d8. Now that we got our hit die, we're going to take a look at current hit points, which is 8 plus our Constitution modifier. Now our Constitution is a 13, and we have a 1 for our modifier, so that gives us a 9. And then we're going to go up here to hit point maximum and put a 9 in there also. Of course, that brings us to temporary hit points. Right? Temporary hit points are something that is given to you through the use of a spell or a potion or something along those lines to give you a buff. So let's say you have +2 temporary hit points. You would take and put that in here, and then once that's done, then you'd chew into your regular hit points. Then we're going to take a look at death saves, just because it happens to be there, and a lot of people have questions about death saves. Let's say you get taken down to 0 hit points. Right? You don't die like you did back in the days of AD&D. This right here gives you the extra chance to regain consciousness. So, for a better lack of a term, I'm going to say that you faint. As if, say you're playing the Pokemon card game. Instead of their Pokemon dying, they just faint and go back in their ball. If you roll a 10 or lower, you would put a little dot on your failure. If you roll an 11 or higher, you would put a single dot right there in successes. There is a downside to this and an upside. If you roll a nat 1, that counts as a double failure. And of course, if you roll a nat 20, that counts as a double success. So within 3 rolls or 2 rolls, you could be back up to 1 hit point, or you could be rolling a new character. Now we're going to put our weapons in. So our first weapon is our Dagger. If we look at it alphabetically, it does 1d4 piercing damage, and it's a finesse light throw weapon, which means we would use our dexterity modifier for our attack bonus. So we have our dexterity modifier is a 3 for our Dagger. And like I said, it's a finesse type weapon, so we get 1d4. Now we take a look at our quarterstaff. Put that in here, Q staff. Bingstow is a melee type weapon, and that goes off of your strength. Our strength modifier just happens to be a -1. So we'd put a -1 in there. Right? And it does, according to this chart, 1d6. It's also a versatile weapon, which means you can use it two-handed. So we go 1d8 on that. Now we're going to go back to our equipment again. So we've gotten our simple weapon. We've got another simple melee weapon and our armor. The next thing we have on here is an explorer's pack. It's pretty simple. It's a backpack with a bedroll, medkit, tinderbox, 10 torches, 10 days worth of rations, a water skin. The backpack also has 50 feet of hemp rope strapped to the side of it. So we're going to take all that and we're going to plug it in right down there in our equipment to the list. Now you can add other things to it, like let's say you want to add a candle or a couple of candles. Candles last about 10 days if you just do them like an hour at a time. So that sounds like a great idea. You could use that for like writing or scribbling information down, keeping notes. Or if you want to read a book or something like that. Alright, the last thing we're going to add to this is our Druidic Focus. This is an item that's totally up to whether or not your Dungeon Master will allow it for a starting out character. Personally, myself, I say, hey, you gather your spell casting items that you need as you go along from the environment surrounding you, because that's how druids get their materials. But they say Druidic Focus for starting equipment, so we're just going to put it in there for argument's sake. There you go. We dove right down the middle, knocked it out, got it taken care of. Next time we're going to tackle the right hand side. So stick around for that video when it comes out. Be watching. And if you are subscribed, you'll definitely get notified when I put her out. So until next time, you guys have a great day and stay safe out there.